I've been thinking a whole lot about healing in the context of healing and walking, in the context of damage, in the context of that which can or cannot actually be healed. I think that this is very important these days because there's a lot going on inside of and outside of individual humans that I'm not sure is actually a candidate for healing. It is, however, a candidate for walking. And in the wake of profound walking, it is true that suddenly healing becomes possible again on levels that you couldn't have gotten there from here by trying to heal. But by that point you don't care. You're glad, but it's not the main point. I am working right now with a client who, healthy man, fell from a high place, shattered his foot. They had to put him under to rebuild it, but in order to prepare for the anesthesia, they did all these scans, and they found right next to his heart in his lung what appears to be inoperable metastatic stage 4 lung cancer. He's completely unsymptomatic. He came to me, as he put it, deranged with fear and anger, and asking me to take him on as a client and save him. And I said, I will agree to take you on as a client if the focus is walking, not healing. And maybe you'll heal and maybe you won't. But we focus on, okay, if you are to die, how would you like to die? Let's get to work on clearing the debris between you and the unity so that you have the clearest possible shot to go home without bashing into, that which holds you back and having to spend however many years after you're dead burning that off. Because he's quite the person. There's plenty there. I have no idea how this will turn out, but as we go, the doctors keep readjusting things and saying, well, maybe this isn't stage 4. Well, maybe this isn't metastatic. Recently they've said, I'm not sure, but maybe this isn't cancer. So we have no idea. However, what is loosening, because the focus is on how do I clear, destroy, eradicate, renounce that which stands between me and a full yes to the big heart. That's our focus, not healing. It is resulting in a much bigger 51% voting majority coming in. The amount of light that is able to come into his system now that he's not trying to heal is just saying, okay, God, let's work on our relationship. That's all. I am preparing to come home. Huge. And huge what it is bringing to otherwise unresolvable, as far as I can tell, unhealable levels of damage inside of him, because whatever he's got in his lung next to his heart, it really didn't come from nowhere. There's things. There's been darkness and trouble. Yeah. I'm in conversation with some moms right now. I'm looking at the potential of putting together a mom, whole heart connection mom thing for young children, with young children. And the main issue that keeps coming up is, how do I work with a child? How do I raise a child who might not live to be grown up? Because we do not know what this world is coming to. How do I prepare my child for a possible early death in a massive conflagration, or goodness knows what it is that we're heading into? And it's been as inspiring as working with this stage 4 metastatic cancer person, if that's what it resolves into being. Because these are moms who are taking on, how do I teach my child to put their connection to the big heart first? Absolutely, no matter what. As the primary cultural cornerstone of our family life. And then seeing what the fallout is from there. Whether it's working with bullies in preschool, and it's very, very different to help somebody, to help a 4-year-old working with a bully in preschool from the point of view of healing, from the point of view of, I want this to come out with my kid feeling good and feeling strong and resolving the issue and making things better. And instead to be working with, how do I help my kid on a me-first basis as part of a family culture anchor their commitment to the heart despite the wound, and make it really clear that this is not a deal breaker between me and you, big love. In fact, it may be an opportunity to draw nearer. The resulting access to profound resource that 4-year-old has to face the bully, not from focusing on facing, how do you face the bully, is rather open-ended. Sort of non-strategically open-ended. Good side effects. Yeah. So I have been more and more feeling as though there's a lot of healing. I mean, healing is great. I love healing. Let's do lots of healing. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. However, there is this hitting into places, globally or personally, where it doesn't seem possible. Where it seems like we're dealing with not just damaged but broken in a kind of way. And if what we are doing relentlessly is what in Chinese medicine is called facing south, or facing towards the world, trying to remediate the question of how do I come to life more fully and more nobly, authentically as myself, then our focus is clearing away the obstacles and tending the wounds between me and the world, between me and life. I'm not against it. It's often quite important, quite helpful, and occasionally dead impossible can't get there from here. Everybody does die. Everybody is eventually going to get themselves into a situation where they can't be healed. But where there's going to be a heck of a lot else that they can do. Like turn and face north and say, I'm not ignoring any of this rubble. Can we open it even more? Can it be a doorway in some way? I'm not a this. Can I be a that? What is the gift? how there's an acupuncture point, lung 7, which has to do with that David White poem about how when one thing goes, everything goes. We have to remake all the relationships to everything. There is no single loss. And it's a way of saying there is no single brokenness. Let's just mash the whole thing up. It was a broken bicycle. What is it going to be now? An incredible sculpture of some kind nobody's ever thought of before? I give the pieces to you. I give you these broken pieces. Open it more. Take it the next step. What do we have here? Terrible, horrendous places that feel corrupted beyond belief due to childhood sexual abuse. I'm thinking of a particular person where it's like, wow, to work with that from a healing level is, I don't know how many decades of therapy with the confusing distortions of spirit and body that have grown up around this terrible thing. Oi. And from the point of view of facing south, I don't know. Is this irreparable damage? My main perspective that I'm wanting to bring here is I don't care. Turn it around facing north. Because it either is or isn't going to clear for this world. But if it is, its best shot is by not trying to heal it. By taking it and saying, is what it is. You brought me here. You brought me this. Next step for our relationship, not next step for me to have a lot of fun in life or even be me fully. Next step in our relationship. Next step in my homecoming process. So I've been classifying damage in 2 ways. That which is getting in the way of me living my life as me. And that is healing. That is about healing. Though sometimes even that is not going to be healed through healing. It's going to be healed through turning and assuming, well, if I were on my deathbed right now, and wanting nothing to stand in the way of my union, am I going to clutch my wound to my chest? I've been doing plenty of this. I've been really working with this in myself. The part that like takes my damage and like holds it between me and God. Or is willing to open it because it's identity at this point. It's so old. It's so defining. But if I'm heading home anyway, maybe tomorrow by being hit by a bus, like as Susan's teacher, mentioned. Okay. And this too, just like healing, requires a strong engine, or an engine attended by a community of loved ones. In the same way that healing is a kind of letting go into this alchemical solvent that allows the damage to unwind, this direction of flow also, to let ourselves, we can't surrender into a theory, we can't surrender into nothingness, we can't surrender into like a pinhole. We need to surrender into something large. So we hold that door for each other. And often we do not know nor need to know whether it's the door of healing or the door of walking that we're holding open. Just hold the door open. Hold the door open. Hold the door open. Because I really wanted to get in place that what we're calling damage, in the sense of facing self-damage, damage as far as, am I able to show up fully, to turn this acorn into an oak tree, to actually bring forth my full potential here in this world? That is a question that may be addressed by healing, or may be addressed by walking, but still, it's still started as something between me and the world. And in the healing or the walking of it, the veils will dissolve and meanings will open, and I will So I'm saying, damage part one is wounds from the world that are getting between me and the world. Wounds from life that are getting between me and life. As one kind of damage, one thing that we could call damage, as distinct from the alchemy of pain. Yeah. Yeah, no, we're not quite understanding each other yet.
Yeah.
Because just saying, well, this is not going to heal, that's resignation.
Okay.
What we're looking at is actually surrendering it to another alchemy. Of further breaking apart into something inconceivable. This is actually conversation we've been in, because sometimes in order for there to be healing, there has to be a kind of dying. We talk about this as ego death. Who you thought you were, it's going to completely bust apart. And so that which is not going to heal, it's going to be repurposed. And possibly be repurposed by being even further dismantled in some way. And we really don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to feel very different than just lugging around a ball and chain. It's a dismantlement. It's an offered opening into a much wider space to be with the unity. I'm going like this. And we don't have any idea what that's going to look like. In contrast to healing, where we usually have a kind of felt sense in somewhere of who we would be if we were healthy and whole. Like, it's in there somewhere. Like, the bicycle gets bashed up. Somewhere in the bicycle it knows what, like, manufacturer's spec was for this fully thriving bicycle to be, like, and repairing it, like, to go back. Like, we kind of have some sense of what that would feel like. We do not have an embodied sense of what it's going to feel like, look like, be like when we say, okay, it's a broken bicycle, but what could it be? I'm not even trying to get back to the ancient dream of my own potential. That is no small thing to let go of. I suspect it's our only hope as a world, as a culture, and for a lot of us human beings, is to say, that was really a beautiful thing. You know, I was created to be this beautiful bicycle. I got wrecked. I could mourn that and feel broken and damaged forever. Or I could turn with it and say, this whole thing is not a deal breaker in our relationship. I'm heading home anyway. I'm not going to take all this junk with me anyhow. What shall we do with this, you and I, big love? And it will be something we could not intuit. And that may or may not lead to utterly spectacular levels of healing and showing up in the world in some pretty amazing ways. But it doesn't have that feeling of familiarity that's so lovely about healing, where a person, when they heal, they feel like, wow, I simultaneously feel like this is so new, but it's so familiar. I've always really been this inside. I'm not putting that down. I love it. It's great. Yes, exactly. But this is different. This is like, I just want to share a moment. It may have been with one of you. I can't remember who I was talking to. I just remember the upwelling inside of myself when I practically shouted at a client on the phone, "You can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again!" Because it was a person who had suffered grievously. I mean, legit, really suffered tremendously. It was a lot. And the trying to heal was completely counterproductive. And it was such a breakthrough moment because they got it. Oh, I can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Stop trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Ya Allah, great big source. What do we have an opportunity for here? Something inconceivable. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. I'm in. And enough with this. And life began, really. So I wanted to mention that spiritually revelatory moment for me and in community. Yeah. I had a similar moment on the phone just the other day with the mother of a child who's going into preschool and is looking at really coming to terms with, what do I teach my child? What is it even worth? Preparation for life. What? And we really went through a letting go of not really knowing what's going to be meant by the word life for this as well as other children. And she wanted to go into mourning and spend some time grieving the loss of essentially the fantasy that all parents have. You know, always has been a fantasy. Most of the time it doesn't turn out like that for our kids anyway. But she wanted to spend time grieving the fantasy, and I wouldn't let her. I said, that's a premature conclusion that there is cause for grief here. Actually, we have no idea. And that is short term way more uncomfortable because we know how to grieve. And instead, we're going to have to stay here wide open with no idea whether this is an occasion for grief or not. No idea. No idea. Wide open. That's walking. That is the unconditional yes. Okay? Yeah. So that's from part 1. But I thought I'd mention it. There were powerful moments for me in really having it sink in.